Well, good afternoon, Nick. How are you today?
Doing fantastic, Michael. How about you?
I'm fantastic. Welcome to this edition of AFA Today, where we talk about some of the most exciting things that are happening within the organization. And after some of the work that you and I have been doing this last couple of days, I thought, you know what? We need to talk about what's happening in professional development, especially as it pertains to some of the events that are coming up this fall. So, give a sense of who you are and what you do for the AFA, and for anybody who happens to listen to this but doesn't know you specifically.
All right. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Nick Rike. I am the Director of Professional Development for the American Fence Association. I've been in the industry 24 plus years now. I've been working specifically for the AFA for a little over three. And basically, my job is to oversee all the education, try to maintain updates. We've been working on a bunch of stuff, which we'll get into as we go through this. But basically, I was an instructor for over 10 years or about 10 years with the AFA. So I came through as a student before I was an instructor, before I was kind of overseeing all the education as a whole. So I've been a little bit of everything through here.
So, one of the things that I think is exciting is people think about professional development or think about their jobs within the industry. Is this idea of excuse me, of career paths? So, give me a sense of what career paths are and what they do for somebody who's looking at our business as a career.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to mid-year just a little bit because it was a great example of even people that are plugged in with us don't realize how much we're doing and all the things that we're working on. And so for, folks out here in social media land, you're going to hear a ton of things and stuff that you never heard, didn't know was going on or whatever. And one of those is the career pathway. And the reason that's so important is we've got so much education going on. We've got so many things that we're working on and working with. The career pathway is a way for people to look at our education and then have a roadmap to figure out how best to use what's available for them. So the career pathway is just a way to kind of organize all the education and say, okay, I am currently at this level in my job or this level in my career, and I really want to do this over here. So what things are going to help get me to where I want to go faster than just on the job training and years of experience? And so the career pathways kind of lays it out and says, look, if you're here and you want to get there, here's three steps that are going to help you to broaden your horizons and get better education and have a better understanding of what it takes to do that, and helps lead you in that pathway. That's kind of where that all comes from.
See, what I find interesting about our business is that people fall into it and then they just fall in love. And so nobody starts out and says, I'm going to be a fence guy or I'm going to be a gate person for my whole job. They kind of find an opportunity and they love it and they build a connections with other people and they learn that they can make a living here. And I think one of the exciting things about what you're doing is you're helping them say, man, if you really do love it here, if you feel like this is where you belong in the world, here's how we can help you make a living at it. And I just think it's fantastic.
Well, sure. It starts out as a job, and people don't realize, I tell the joke all the time, when you're just out there digging holes and you're just working with your company, you
Right.
don't see, sometimes you get stuck in that hole and you don't see what all else is out there. And that's, people don't always realize that this can actually be a career. And when you get involved and you start talking to people and you start meeting people, you realize there's people that have been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years that have made a great life for themselves and their family, and they have great friends in the industry. And it really is more than just, that summer job that it may have started out as when you were a kid or whatever.
Well, all right. So let's jump into it. This is about the time of the year where people start thinking about education and thinking about professional development. There's a lot of things happening out in the world. So tell me, let's talk a little bit about the things that are happening in your world. Let's start on the gate side, because we always start with fences. Let's start on the gate side. What are some of the things that you and the volunteers that you work with, what are you all thinking about in terms of innovations and bringing great things to the gate programs this year?
Well, we're constantly updating all of our programs to maintain compliance with the things that are out there. ASTM comes out with new standards. Manufacturers build new gates that all of a sudden we have to have standards for. Manufacturers come out with new types of operators or new safety devices or whatever it is. UL makes changes, and so we're constantly working to update all of our programs to make sure that they meet what the needs are in the industry, and I throw that back to the education side. If you have a certification, people are like, well, why do I have to have these CEUs? And it's like, well, because things are constantly changing. So we want to make sure that you stay up with the knowledge requirements to maintain what that certification was supposed to be to begin with. So, for the gate operator side, we're working on updating things to maintain those compliances and make sure we're teaching the most recent information, whether it be the ASTM and UL or whether it be, the way telephone entry and access controls are moving. We want to make sure that we are kind of staying towards that forefront of the industry as a whole. Now, we don't get too far ahead because we don't want to teach something that is, turns out to be a fad. It was around for 1 year or 2 years and then it goes
Right.
away. So
Right.
you have to wait till there's a little bit of a proven track record. But, a lot of this stuff, we're working on incorporating that into the system. And then to go beyond that, when we're looking at the career pathways, when we first started building theirs, it was like, okay, there's some things that we're missing here, some additional courses that we need to create to make sure that we can fulfill the entire career pathway. And so, one of the things that we're working on now is the technician's course, because we have the designer course, we have the installer course, but once you get past installer, it's a little different person that can go out and install all brand new equipment versus the person that can go out to something that's been there for 2 or 3 years and say, oh, this is what's not working on it and this is how to fix it. So that's that next step and the next progression and everything that we're working on.
That's fantastic. And I understand that you're working with a group of volunteers on some translation of materials as well.
100%. So we just got the gate automation designer school has all been translated into Spanish. So not only do we have the Spanish book and the Spanish test, we actually are getting ready to launch the Spanish design school online. So on AFA University, we're going to have the Spanish and the English version. And we're also scheduled for the first time that I know of to give a course in Spanish at FenceTech. We're going to do GADS in Spanish at FenceTech alongside the English version.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, so what else have you got from a management standpoint? I understand that the materials that we've been trading back and forth recently have been about the operations managers program. So, what are some of the things that are innovating in that space?
Yeah, so we have completely revamped that course. We started last year and did the beginning of the overhaul, and then we ran a pilot program. We took a bunch of the information from the students that were there and got with the committee. And there's 3 or 4 people on that committee. We've got Robert Whitaker and Michael Whitaker and Dan Tuberville and myself, and you kicked in and helped us with some of the design side and just kind of herding the cats, because we get off on tangents when we're working on it sometimes. And so I like to call Michael Reed and say, hey, I need a fresh set of eyes because I'm so deep in this. I know I need to come back a little bit. So, but yeah, we're completely revamping that course. We just went through and we brought in a bunch of the old material and a bunch of the material that we redid and just redid the entire book. And have all new slides incorporating again some of the initial information and some of the new information. And I think it's going to be a great course. And we're lucky we're actually going to be, and we'll talk about this more in a minute, but we're going to be giving it 3 times over the next 2.5 months or so, 2 months or so. So it's going to be a great course.
Fantastic. So on the management side, also you're working with some volunteers on the Fence Contractor Business School, the FCBS course. What are some of the innovations in that course, and what does that look like?
Well, one of the things that we realized with that is a lot of the up management and owners and upper management in these companies couldn't always get away from their business for an entire week. It was very difficult. So one of the things that we're doing is we're in the process of revamping that course to a 2-day in-person course. And then we're going to have some pre-study work prior to, so that when they get there, we can kind of do a review of some of the stuff, and then we can do a deep dive on the other stuff and make it to where it fits more into what we understand as a very demanding schedule when you're running a business and you're trying to get better. And, a lot of these guys, as well as I do, when you're running a business, you're wearing so many different hats. Early in your career, if you step away, it's a huge hit to the business. And so we understand that, and we're trying to be a little more accommodating to that busy schedule, so that they have the ability to come to these schools and get some of this fantastic training. So we've got a couple of great people, people that were instructors before or just titans in the industry that are coming in to help us. We brought in AFA Council, who's been around associations and contracts and all that stuff forever, to help us on the legal side of things. And so again, same type deal. We've got just a fantastic team that is helping to kind of revamp that course and bring it into this year and make sure that it's where it needs to be going forward.
Well, I understand one of the things you did too is kind of bring Brad Howard, who was one of the initiators of that program, to bring him in to do kind of the innovations. I thought that was a really smart move. I think that he has a really good sense of what that person at the GM level or what that person at the ownership level needs to know from a contractor's perspective.
Yeah. He's the chair of the school, and again, because he's been an instructor, he helped write the initial school, so he understands the information that can be carried forward. And then again, he's been in the industry for a long time. He's been in big business for such a long time. He really understands some of the niches, and he has those little stories when you're in person that kind of help drive home the point of what the book is talking about.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the foreman school. So we're talking about, you said one of those things that we were going to do was fill some of the gaps here. And I think one of the huge innovations that you've done is kind of get a group of volunteers together to focus on foreman training and not, that's probably one of the hardest jobs in the entire business is that when you've elevated somebody in that team lead job and they've been a doer and now they have to have kind of some management skills. What does innovations in that foreman school look like?
Well, so going on the fence side of things, and one of the things that we're trying to do is again kind of build that pathway. So I'm going to back up and go back to AFAU online and start with the fence fundamentals. So we've got this course for somebody that's brand new to the industry, or maybe somebody in the office that just wants some more information about what it is that they're doing, whether they're answering phones or clerical or whatever. So we've got a course online that's fence fundamentals. And then following up the pathway, the next course is our fence installation school, which is a fantastic school. It's either 2 days or 5 days, depending on if it's on the road or in person. And it teaches people actually how to go out in the field and build fence. So the next step is, like you said, you've got somebody that's a fantastic laborer. He's been with the company 3 or 4 years. He knows how you do stuff. He knows how you run stuff. But what's the next step? Well, the next logical step is he's going to be a foreman, or she's going to be a foreman. She's going to be running a team. She's going to be running the job site, which means now all of a sudden they're showing up and they're reading blueprints and they're in charge of layout, and they have to understand, grade stakes, and they have to be able to talk to the contractor and the other contractors and the GC and all this. And so there are a number of steps with being a foreman that, when you're a laborer, you kind of just get to show up and start doing what you're supposed to do. Your string lines are laid out and you're digging holes and whatever. But on the foreman side of things, not only do you have to run the job site, but you also have to run the team. So we're talking, some leadership skills, some communication skills, obviously the installation and blueprint reading skills. And it's a little bit different of a course. It's an elevated course that concentrates less on the installation of the fence and more on the steps that are involved, both with the team and outside the team, on what it is to install a fence.
That's spectacular. So we've talked about a lot of things. The two programs that I've been most involved in your world has been the sales training school. And so just a quick update on the sales training school. What we've talked about doing is how do we take that sales training school that focuses on the actual skill set and knowledge that's associated with the sales process, and how do we build that and expand that to include some real live exercises when it comes to how to sell the products in our industry. And so that's one of the things that we've been building on in terms of innovating the sales training school. And then the leadership academy, we've had an outstanding kind of quasi volunteer training, and we've let certain people into the leadership academy, but not released it widely. And I think what we've been doing now is thinking about how do we actually teach leadership and help people develop those leadership skills, that it doesn't matter where they fit in the business. When they want to be a better manager, or they want to lead their business better, they want, we have to be able to provide that career pathway for that experience as well. And so those are some of the innovations that we're working on that will also come out this fall. So we've talked about OMS, we've kind of talked about the GATE program, sales training school, the foreman school. Where can people get all of this training? So you mentioned AFAU online, and I think that that's a great experience to kind of get your feet wet and see past FenceTech courses that we've taught in the past. I think it's a great place to view fence fundamentals. But as we talk about in-person training, where are people going to be this fall in professional development programs?
Well, you're right. The AFA University Online is a fantastic resource because it's education on your terms, when you need it, where you need it. It's never going to take the place of in-person education. And so we're going to constantly provide that, whether it's, an AFA event, whether it's a chapter event, whether it's a FenceTech or whatever. And so we've got a ton of stuff coming up. So we've got the On the Road training event in New York, in Greenwich, New York, where we're doing the welding school, the operations manager school, and the fence installation school, the 2-day fence installation. We're working with the Carolinas chapter, where we're doing the gate automation design school, and they're personally handling some OSHA training. Then at the Pacific Northwest event, they're doing 2 education sessions out there. You guys are doing operations manager and sales training. Is that right? So
operations manager and GADS.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's right. That's right. Tim Nordstrom's going to go up there and do the GADS. My apologies. I got mixed up there. So yeah, so they're doing 2 courses up there in the Pacific Northwest. Then shortly after that, you guys, you and Robert Whitaker are doing an event at Yellowstone, where you're doing kind of an introduction and an overview of leadership, which is again a fantastic course. And then, as far as AFA in-person training, we have the coup de grace coming up in November, which is AFA University. This year, it's the first week in November every year, but we're going to be in Grapevine, Texas. And we're actually doing 6 schools across the week. So we have the 5-day gate operator school, the 5-day fence installation school. Then on Monday and Tuesday, we're doing the sales training school and the leadership academy. And on Thursday and Friday, we're doing the fence contractor business school and the operations manager school. And then testing will be on Saturday for the 3 schools that have certifications. And then if you want to take any of the other certifications or retest or whatever it is you need to do, all of the testing will be done Saturday. So we've got a fantastic facility out there. We're expecting to have multiple hundred people coming through this school, and it's going to be awesome. I'm so looking forward to having all the schools back in the same location, because we always talk about AFA events and why get involved, and everybody talks about the intangibles. And that's what I'm looking forward to. When these students get together and they start talking and they start seeing what's going on in the other classes, and they're like, man, so-and-so at my company really needs to come to that school next year, or, right, I really want to go to that school next year, or whatever it is. It's such a cool event. And, it's like FenceTech. When you get around a group of people that is that big, that is that like-minded and has a passion for what it is that they're doing, the conversations are just fantastic. So I always get super jazzed when AFAU and FenceTech are coming up.
It's a very positive, uplifting experience. And I think when you put people together who are like-minded, and then also kind of just tickle their brains, you get them excited about learning. It's a very, very empowering and very, very positive atmosphere. So one of the things that makes that such powerful and empowering activity is the volunteers. And I just, as we wrap up, I have one more thing I want to talk to you about. But as we wrap up this conversation, I just think that, and we can't name all the volunteers or we'll forget some, but I just want to impress upon people that this isn't you and I sitting around behind, our computers trying to build these programs. This is based on the leading thought leaders in our industry who are sharing their time and expertise as volunteers, and they're not doing it for pride, they're not doing it for ego. They do it because they love the students and they love our industry. And there's just nothing that compares to that. Nothing.
No, I mean, think about just the names that I've said so far. Tim Nordstrom running the Gate School, Joe LaPierre running the Gate Automation Design School. We brought in Ringo to run the Technician School. We got Robert Whitaker at OMS. We've got John McCoy for the Leadership Academy. We've got Matt Shiradana that's doing the foreman training. We've got Scott Galpin doing the sales training. I mean, we've got such a fantastic group of people. And then what they do is they bring in other fantastic people that they know to round out these committees and be additional instructors. And I mean, we've got some of the best people in the industry that have come and said, "Hey, I want to volunteer and give back and provide my time." And it's absolutely fantastic.
It is fantastic. Don't forget Brad Howard doing Fence Contractor Business School.
I knew it. See, I knew I was going to forget somebody.
Jesus and Hugo doing the Spanish Gads program.
Yes.
See, that's why I wanted to be cautious about not mentioning people, because that's just the first level. When you go beyond that, the people that are working to support those people to get the work done, you're talking about hundreds of people that are involved in this directly or indirectly to make this, to make education and professionalism better in our industry.
100%. So
as we wrap up, I want you to just give me a sense of what FenceTech is going to look like in February from an education standpoint.
FenceTech in February this year is going to be unbelievable. We're going to absolutely blow everybody away with the education at FenceTech this year. To give you an idea, like I said, we've got GADS in both English and Spanish Monday and Tuesday. We're doing the Leadership Academy on Monday. We've got 2 4-hour education sessions. We've got Tony Thornton coming in and doing a 4-hour on Monday morning. We've got Sean King doing a 4-hour Monday afternoon. And then starting Tuesday morning, it gets really crazy because right now I have got 70 education slots filled between Tuesday and Wednesday morning. So it's going to be the largest education program that I've ever seen as far as at FenceTech. And I am so excited because of those 70 education sessions, I think we're looking at something like almost 60 some odd different speakers. We've only got a couple folks that are doing 2. So, I mean, we've got just a ton of 60 plus different speakers coming to that, and it's going to be unbelievable.
So 2 things about that. Number 1, again, our reliance on volunteers. I mean, what is happening in the industry right now when it comes to people appreciating their ability to create impact by working with AFA and advancing the industry through education is just simply amazing. And we could not say enough about how much we appreciate those folks.
100%.
And then the second thing is that we're at this point now where we just don't take anybody that applies. We get to say, you're a thought leader in the industry and we want you speaking at FenceTech. And that's a great place to be.
100%. And we've laid it out this year. Not only are we have GADS in Spanish, but we have 5 additional education sessions that are going to be specifically in Spanish. We've got a couple of ag-based education sessions. We've got a couple of perimeter security-based. We're really starting to round the education program out so much to include everybody that's in this space. And so there's a little something for everyone. It doesn't matter where you're at, if it's a culture based or a business based, if you're doing ag or you do access controls, it doesn't matter. That can still touch your business. If it's sales based, it can touch your business. But then when you start getting into some of the specifics, it's like, okay, what are specific things that are different between this and that? So now we've got some specialty courses that are kind of aimed in certain directions to continue building, again, rising tides raise all boats. And so, that's what we're really trying to do is just continue boosting the industry as a whole and putting that information out there for everyone.
Well, Nick, I just want to say thanks again for all your efforts. I really appreciate it. I think the industry really appreciate it. And this idea, again, of what do we do to help those folks out in the industry, think of this not just as their job, but think of this as they can move all the way through a full, very fulfilling career. And I just want to thank you for all your efforts on that.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.